Hello everybody and welcome to Sports Talk in the Burgh. I'm your host Nate Kingston, and today I am joined by our freshman hockey analyst Brett McGolick and our #1 knower of ball, Jess McGaw. We have a great show for you today with everything RMU hoops, Steelers news, and what's happening on the ice with the Pens. So let's get right into it. Now, I need to ask, is there a champ here? I'm asking, is there a champ here in Moon Township? Well, if you're asking the same thing, then there's a fact that the champ of Hoop Township is RMU men's basketball team are the Horizon League champions after defeating Youngstown State 89-78. So I ask, who is the most impactful in the Colonials' run in the Horizon League tournament? Jess, who is that?
You can put it up to whoever you want. However, there's one right answer. Cameron Woods. Cam Woods, NC State transfer, showed up to RMU, had a middling start of the season. He wasn't necessarily in his groove until the clocks hit 2025. And all of a sudden, he was lights out. He shows up to the playoff game at the UPMC Event Center, and he shows up to Indianapolis. And just look at the stats that he is able to put up in that situation. He's got 20 points per game, 6 assists per game, 5 rebounds per game, and obviously, at that point, you got to give him the tournament MVP. Like, you can't give it to anyone else. Even though Josh Omajafo had 24 and 13 in the final game, Cam was there every game. Alvaro Fulgaris had his moments. Amarian Dickerson had his moments. Cam was there every single time. And you want to know what the best part about this is, Kingston?
What is the best part, Jess?
Cam Woods predicted this. A year ago, in 2024, Cam Woods went on an interview show with George Michalikowski, and he predicted just how successful the Colonials would be this year. Not only that they would win the Horizon League, but that they would make it back to the NCAA championship. Take a look.
On the court, like, what can we expect from you at Robert Morris? Tell us about your game.
On the court, you're gonna expect a sold out. Like, once everyone get eyes on the court, it's gonna be sold out every game. I know we win in the Horizon. We're going to March Madness for sure. All the individual accolades, they're gonna come, but I mean, I don't have to speak on those. They know.
And he predicted it all. The individual accolades were there. The fact that they won the Horizon League was there. This was in July. This was before they had even gotten together for the year yet. And that's not to mention the fact that he was clutch every single time. We have to talk about that Oakland game. He drives down the lane, gets the and one to send it to overtime. Like, I mean, there's no one else. There's no one else.
That's fair. We have a prophet that Jess brought in, but what is your...
You know, I really don't think you can count it on just one guy. I mean, this entire team has been firing on all cylinders. I mean, obviously you got your starting 5, right? They've all been killing it, especially Cam Woods. But you got some guys from the bench, too, that have been killing it as well. I mean, I think it's that next up mentality. As you can see here, Ishmael Paulette and Ryan Prather have been those 2 guys that have just been on it this season. Paulette, 70% from field goals. He was a dog against Oakland when Alvaro Fulgaris went out. And after he fouled out, he balled out for this team, and he really played that next man up mentality. He hasn't really played much in the regular season, but he balled up when it really mattered. And then Ryan Prather all season, he's been a dog. 44% on the line, 40% behind the arc. He's playing about 24 minutes a game. I mean, how can you not think of this as a whole team effort? Smith has been putting up double-digit points the last 3 games. This team is not relying fully on Dickerson, Fulgaris, and Woods every night. They got guys. I just think this is a whole full team effort rather than just one player.
And to touch on Ryan Prather, not only is his shooting so valuable to the Colonials team, talk about good defense. The very end of overtime, even though Cam Woods is the one who sent it there, he's the one who had the shot block to leave it with only about 0.6 seconds remaining. I mean, and Ishmael Platt, while he did struggle at first in the Horizon League tournament, obviously Amarian Dickerson and Fulgaris were in foul trouble throughout the entire time in the HL playoffs. But when Ishmael Platt came in, there were a lot of concerns about how much he was able to do. But instead of living up to those low expectations, he exceeded them time and time again. He went 8 for 12 for field goals, often getting those tough offensive boards and putting it back in against guys who are 7'3". Keep in mind, Ishmael isn't that tall. But don't get me wrong, he plays big. And that's exactly, you need those two pieces. You need someone who can shoot the ball extremely well, and you need someone who plays about 7 feet tall, even though they're 6'8".
Absolutely.
No, I agree with both you guys. I really want to think it's a whole team effort, definitely. But I can't.
Cam Woods.
Can't doubt
Cam Woods
you
did
guys
pretty
have
good.
some really good picks. Anyway, continuing on with the men's team, with a win over of the Horizon League tournament, they have made the March Madness tournament for the first time while being in the Horizon League. So, what does a March Madness appearance mean for RMU? Brett, what do we got for this one?
I really don't think people are just. I don't think they know how huge this thing is for this school. I mean, there are so many more eyes on RMU just from this appearance. I mean, with the birth, I mean, not the birth of social media, but just how big it is now. Like, for example, I was at the Pens game yesterday, periodically checking in on the game. I typed in R, just the letter R into the search bar. First thing that came up was RMU men's basketball. This is huge. As you can see here on the graphic, RMU's first NCAA tournament appearance since 2015. They have never won a first-round game. They saw a record crowd for the first time ever, and it's just been insane how much this has done for the school. And who knows, maybe this could bring up some buzz for players who want to come here. They want to play under Andy Toole. I think this could keep going up.
See, now Brett, I love this team. Don't get me wrong, I'm an RMU fan, but the issue is, how sustainable is this? We saw the exact same thing happen last year with Duquesne. They won the NEC tournament. They were the darlings of Pittsburgh for a week or two. And then all of a sudden, it became April. They didn't make it far in the tournament, and once again, the hierarchy of Pittsburgh sports just sort of reinforced itself. It's Steelers, it's Pens, then you get Pitt, University of Pitt, and we're down here. We're down here. Duquesne and us. I mean, it's the same thing, just a different day. And as much as I want to say that this team is going to continue to be successful, there is no reason why any of these players should not be looking at other schools for more offers. Yes, you win the Horizon League, but as it said, it's only a Cinderella run that really generates that economic impact. You can be in the first round and you can be in the ticker of the TBS March Madness thing, and you can be getting blown up by 20. How much is that going to do for your actual university's image? How much revenue is that going to bring in?
But what if they don't get blown out by 20? What if they win? What if they win in the first round?
I mean,
what if it happens? That could be huge for this team, and this team has the tools to do it.
If you look back at the Horizon League last year, Oakland did it in the first round. They blew the rocks off Kentucky.
It's just that a lot of this comes down to individual matchups. And while I do think RMU could, like, if all of the stars align for RMU, yes, they can get that Cinderella run. Yes, they can make it to the round of 32, maybe even the Sweet 16. But that's the limit. There's only so much that you can do as a mid-major school like RMU. And as much as an NCAA tournament like appearance looks good on the UPMC wall, the UPMC Event Center's wall, as much as it looks good when you're bringing in people for tours and you want to talk about their athletic program, as much as it looks good to potential recruits, how much is that actually going to translate when all of your good players are going to be looking in the transfer portal next year? All of this success that they've had this year is going to be fleeting, is what I believe is going to come down to it. And as much as I think that Andy Toole is an excellent coach, how much they're able to do, I really don't know.
Well, we'll have to see. Now, to follow up with the men's team success with reaching March Madness tournament, it isn't too far out to think about the team's appearance next year. That being said, with success, some players and or coaches may want to move to bigger opportunities. So will head coach Andy Toole move on to a bigger school after the success of this season? Jess, I know you're already kind of on the cusp of that. What do you have?
See, here's the thing. Andy Toole is the reason why this team is successful. Like, when you saw who RMU brought in over the last year, how he shaped them into this incredible system, this incredible offensive system full of basically spare parts in a lot of ways. You had Joshua Majafo transferring from Gannon. They were panning for gold, and they struck it. Like, they struck gold this year. Now, the issue is this year enough for other schools to look at Andy Toole and say, I want to build my program around this guy? I mean, look at all of his accolades. He won Coach of the Year this year. He won it previously in the NECC. I mean, he's been at RMU for 15 years. Obviously, the 26-8 record that he went through. And while ESPN does suggest that Toole may look on to move on from Robert Morris and go to maybe his alma mater, University of Penn, I don't think that's where he ends up. University of Penn is in a very, very weird spot, specifically because it's in the Ivy League. You can't really do too much because NIL deals aren't really existing in there. Players have to go out and find them themselves. What if Andy Toole wants to further his career as a basketball coach? He can do it here at RMU, but his big break isn't going to be coming. If he gets his big break this year, moves on from RMU and goes into, say, the MAC, or even like Indiana has a job open. I know that's a big task, but it's possible.
You know, I don't see him going anywhere. I think he's going to be here for at least one more year. Kind of like you said, is this year going to be enough for a team to look at Coach Toole and kind of make something from him? I mean, he's already been to the dance twice, right? Twice when they were in the NEC. He's still been here after both of those times going to the dance. Like you said earlier, he's been the head coach for the last 15 years, been with the team for 18 years in total. You know, 6 out of the 7th national postseason victories have been under Andy Toole, and he's still here. I think he's going to stay. I really think that maybe, like you said, maybe next year they could look more, but I think after this year, I think he's going to stay here another year for sure.
See, I look at the human part of myself where I go, hey, living in Pittsburgh, it's not all that it's cracked up to be. It gets pretty cold around here, and if I get a job in Jacksonville, Florida, I might take it. I might say, hey, I get to wear shorts every day to practice. That's not bad.
There's also the whole family aspect.
That's
Obviously,
true.
He's got a
housing
wife and 2 kids
markets.
here.
So, yeah, I mean, it all comes down to more than just the game. Sometimes it's a family thing.
But it also comes down to the fact that Andy Toole, the resources that he has here at RMU, it's not as much as you would have at a bigger program. He may be getting offers from athletic directors that say, hey, we're going to give you double the NIL budget that you're getting here at RMU to build a better team, to be even more successful. Yeah, it's going to be in a tougher conference, but that's the next step. That's the next step for someone like Andy Toole. And yeah, even though he's a Colonial faithful, sometimes the big bucks do the big bucks, and you got to take the paycheck.
Yeah, that's just sometimes how it is. Now, let's hope Andy Toole does stay along with some of our players. But coming up after the break, the Steelers are making some moves in free agency and will be joined by Jordan Warwick to grade them right after this.
Every day,
Millions of people are connecting
and even though we're overcoming obstacles,
watching each other's backs,
and banding together.
we should still make an effort.
We should still make an
to
effort.
get to know each other,
on a deeper level.
Father,
cosplayer,
Mentor.
Actor.
it's time we take a step forward
it's time we take a step forward.
Come together.
and discover
How accepting our differences
can make us stronger.
Yeah, Sam, Elmo.
Oh, hey, Julia. Are you ready to play band with us? I'm going to play my clarinet.
And Elmo's gonna play his drum. Drum loud.
Oh, well, you know what to do, Julia.
Julia knows.
With Julia's autism, loud sounds can be too much.
But she still loves to make music. Play band.
Early screening for autism can make a lifetime of difference. Find out more at screenforautism.org.
If you love them enough to crawl into a play place to get them to come down, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the-right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Can I get the now bar, please?
$1.
Have a good one. Got it.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey.
Let me get a now bar.
Sure. $1.
Appreciate you.
Got it.
Welcome back to Sports Talk in the Burgh. I am now joined by Jordan Warwick, our football analyst. So, Jordan, with the Steelers making some moves in free agency, now you're going to be grading them on the report card, so just take it away. What do we got for grades?
You know, when
Omar Khan first became the GM, I was hopeful. I thought maybe that they could finally turn into an organization that wasn't afraid to make competent yet aggressive moves. And you know what? After his first offseason, I thought, maybe that they are on the right track. But I thought that Omar Khan was the con man. I thought he was scamming GMs left and right. But right now, it looks like to me that he is just a con artist, okay? Now, I'm sure you are all aware that the Steelers just made a big move a couple of days ago to trade for DK Metcalf. Now, on the surface, this might seem like a good move, like, oh, the Steelers finally traded for a star player. But if you look at it just a little bit deeper, you will see that this move was not as good as it seemed. Moving him for a second, whatever, fine. But my main problem is with this move is the money and the fit. You gave this guy $33 million. Let me just repeat that. $33 million. He is now the third highest paid receiver in the entire league. DK is now being paid more than Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, and Nico Collins. And he is only making around $2 million less than the likes of Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb. Now tell me, is that money worth a guy who has only broken 1,100 yards twice in his entire career? I don't think so. I also don't think it is smart for a guy I don't think it's smart to trade for a guy who's almost the same type of receiver as your star receiver. Having two big jump ball threats is not indicative of having a dynamic and strong offense like the Steelers want. This is not Madden. You cannot just throw stars together and expect to win. Scheme and fit matter. Overall, I give this a C-. Next, let's move on to the lack of QB moves. This offseason, the Steelers went into the offseason with only one quarterback on their roster, and that was Skylar Thompson. They had absolutely no plan on what to do at quarterback. All of the top guys that were not born in the 80s are now gone. The only people left are Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. And those guys, to me, do not inspire much hope that they could be contenders. Maybe this is just me being a spoiled Steelers fan, but because Big Ben was always around. I miss you, Ben. But I can't do this not having a quarterback thing. They need to make a trade for a young guy or something, because this having a new quarterback year after year after year thing is not it's not anything that's going to have the Steelers looking. It's not going to have the Steelers looking to where they need to be. They're going to be looking more and more like the Cleveland Browns every day. Overall, I give the quarterback situation a D-. Now, you know what? Now, you know what you don't want happening when you are trying to compete. You don't want to be losing a ton of your starters. Najee Harris, Justin Fields, Dan Moore, Dante Jackson, James Daniels, Larry Ogunjobi, Russell Wilson, and Landon Roberts. That is more than 27% of the Steelers' opening day roster. This would not be so bad if the Steelers replaced some of these guys already in free agency. But no, you know who they have signed? Former Eagles backup running back Kenneth Gainwell, backup linebacker Malik Harrison, and they just signed Darius Slay, which I have to say is a good move. But do these moves sound like winning moves to you? Because it sure doesn't sound like it to me. And to go just back to the Malik Harrison signing, can you explain to me why you chose to give him $5 million a year, a guy that has been below average in almost every single PFF category, instead of a guy in a Landon Roberts who knows this system, who's been on the team, who has an above grade in PFFF, and he's only making $3 million. I just do not understand it. Tomlin, Khan, Rooney, you have failed so far this offseason.
Man. Jordan, you're really harsh on these trades. I do think they give DK a little too much money.
A little
bit too
way much. Too much.
He's the third highest paid receiver in the league. What are we talking about?
That's fair.
You know, Jordan. Honestly, I think you were a little bit too generous on your grade for the lack of QB moves. This should be an F. This should just straight up, they failed. They should straight up fail.
Speaking of Fs, I don't think I gave my grade for the last one. I give the grade for the lack of anything a F, a big fat F.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, this team has, personally, out of this is one thing that I really wanted them to do. I think they should have tried a year with Justin Fields. I think, you know, the way that this team is looking, and since Tomlin, as of right now, is still the head coach, and most likely will still be the head coach, I think Justin Fields would have been the guy to run this offense with. I know he's not that flashy when it comes to his arm, but with his legs, which the Steelers have favored in these past however many years, he would have been that guy, and they really dropped the ball on him, and they really dropped the ball on everyone this season to the point where he got to go to a drama queen in Aaron Rodgers, who we don't even know if he's good anymore after a season with the Jets, or a guy in Russell Wilson who started off high but completely collapsed. I think they failed, completely failed, this QB room.
Just absolutely terrible. I do not know how you can be one of the most prestigious front offices, one of the most prestigious franchises, and you have no idea what you are doing. You do not have a plan for the quarterback position, the most important position on the field for the future. What are we doing here? What are we doing?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's true, but let's think about this, guys. As for this coming year, we can sign pretty much anybody. Give me Joe Milton from the Patriots. Give me, I don't know, Derek Carr from the Saints, maybe. Let's get a bridge quarterback for the next year. Like, does someone just forget about Arch Manning on Texas? A Manning?
What?
A Manning?
What do you call this? System? What do you call this past season, Nate?
This past season,
we had a bridge. They had a bridge quarterback, and absolutely, is it just going to be bridge after bridge after bridge? How long is this bridge going to be until they actually find a future? And if they get a bridge quarterback, they're not going to be in a position to get Arch unless they trade TJ and a couple first-round picks to move up to one. But they're not in a position to get one of these young guys.
You brought up this past season. I mean, let's compare these last two seasons. I mean, you had a quarterback room with Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky. What did they go? 10-7. And then you have a quarterback room with two former starting quarterbacks in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Where did they go? They went 10-7, and they're sitting at the 21st pick in the first round of the draft. I mean, you're not going to get a guy. You're not going to get a good enough guy to help project your team with a pick like that. You can't get a good quarterback in that range.
Well, I guess we'll have to see what happens when the coming season and the coming draft. After that report card, we'll just have to see what happens in this coming couple months. Now, coming up after the break, we'll be getting into more grades, but this time with the Penguins, and Brett will be giving them grades right after this.
It's been difficult because I hadn't been able to see my grandchildren.
I can't wait to get back to field trips with my school.
Not having to think about putting on a mask.
I really can't wait to get back to life, really.
I miss all my friends. I miss taking pictures in school.
An expression on someone's face when you do something nice for them.
COVID-19 vaccines are available, and they're the first step to safely getting back to things we miss most. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision about COVID-19 vaccines.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 30 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people.
It's time to make an informed decision about COVID-19 vaccines. The dangerous new Delta variant is more than twice as contagious as the original virus and can affect anyone. Right now, 9 out of 10 hospitalizations and deaths from COVID are among unvaccinated people. Getting vaccinated might save your life, and there's now an option that's fully approved by the FDA. Learn more at getvaccineanswers.org.
Honorary Forest Ranger Betty White here, lending a hand to my dear friend Smokey Bear, because for years he's only said,
"Only you can prevent wildfires."
But there's a lot more to say. Like, if you park your car on tall, dry grass, the hot exhaust pipe can start a wildfire. So keep the animals safe, especially the cute shirtless one. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
Welcome back to Sports Talk in the Burgh, or should I say Sports Grading in the Burgh, because we're going to continue with our midterms. It is now time for Brett's turn to grade a Pittsburgh team, the Penguins. And the Penguins have made some moves. So, Brett, what is their starting grades?
Hello everybody, is your favorite delusional Penguins fan, Brett McGulick. Well, actually, today I am Professor McGulick. Has a nice ring to it. Anyways, the NHL trade deadline has came and went, and not to spoil anything, but I'm going to be way more positive than Jordan was with his Steelers report card. Because frankly, there may be a new con artist in town, and his name is Kyle Dubas. After the monster of a season Omar Codd had with the Steelers, Kyle Dubas swept in and said, "Hold my non-alcoholic beer," and absolutely cooked at the deadline. Let's dive deeper. Now, when Kyle Dubas came to the team in 2023, he walked into an absolute dumpster fire as a product of Ron Hextall, who may have been an inside ploy from the Flyers to take down the Penguins. But who's still the little bro, huh? Sorry, off topic. The Penguins have only had 4 picks going to the first 4 rounds of the next 2 drafts before this. Now, after Dubas cooked in the kitchen, the Pens are sitting at 30. Yes, folks, that is a 3-0. More than any other team in the NHL, the team has turned in aging veterans to very valuable assets. More picks mean more chances to land that next star for the Penguins. Since 2010, the Penguins have drafted 5 players in the 3rd round or later who have played 300-plus NHL games. For example, Jake Gensel, rest in peace. He's not dead, I just miss him. And current dog, Brian Rust, who we'll touch on more later. The team sent away Anthony Beauvillier, a good but not great player, for a 2nd rounder in this year's draft. Additionally, they got and ended up sending away defenseman Luke Schenn for 2 more picks in 2026 and 1 in 2027, along with even more. It's good to know that Dubas is finally looking towards the future of this team, something that needed to happen years ago. But nevertheless, in a few years, who knows, maybe even in this upcoming draft, the team may actually have some depth other than their first line. So as far as draft capital goes, the Penguins earned an amazing A. Moving on from what they've got from the deadline to what their roster looks like now. Acting GM Dubas came out and said earlier this season that if your name is not Sidney Crosby, you can be traded. And if you watched Sports Talk a few weeks ago, you'll remember I said the exact same thing. Dubas stood on his word and when putting pen to paper rebuilding this team. Like I mentioned before, he sent away Anthony Beauvillier as well as Michael Bunting, who's had a very strong stint with the team since coming from Carolina at last season's deadline, as well as Cody Glass and John Gruden. So basically, even if you had some slight trade value, you were sent to a different team. In exchange for saying bye-bye to those players, the Pens got 3 draft picks and some young guys who we will mention later. But 2 guys I did not mention, Crosby's line mates, were Card Raquel and Brian Russ. Our boys are staying in town, possibly the 2 guys most important to the team that are not named Crosby, Malkin, or Letang, are still daunting a Penguins uniform. Now, I know in my last rant about the Penguins, I say get rid of everybody, but I think my heart is growing a few sizes because I absolutely love this move. Dubas is getting an A+ for keeping these 2 guys on the left and right of Sid. Yes, I know you could have gotten a bunch of draft capital for these 2, but in the end, Brian Russ is the longest tenured guy on this team besides the big 3, and Raquel is the team's leading goal scorer. It was a great move to keep these guys as a part of the Pens rebuild in the future, or should I say, an A+ move. When it comes to adding pieces at the deadline, the Penguins didn't make a massive splash, but they made some really smart and calculated moves. Not only big additions, but guys like Connor Dewar could be a solid middle 6 forward during this weird time where the team is rebuilding, or trying to figure out their identity. He's not a game breaker, but a system guy to help the top guys break through. Then another guy like Connor Timmins, a bottom 6 young defenseman who can help the blue line. Again, not very flashy, but a guy this team needs considering how lackluster this team's been behind the blue line this year. And the injury to Brady Shea, if Timmins can develop, it's possible that the goaltending can finally get some help. Speaking of development, the Pens have dozens of prospects in the palm of their hands, working down in Wilkes-Barre as well as Wheeling. So the farm is rich overall. The Penguins do not land a superstar, but they made some meaningful additions without destroying their future. So the Pens get a B+ on the players obtained during the deadline. Overall, Kyle Dubas did exactly what he needed to do regarding draft capital, keeping key names as well as bringing in some new guys. So don't worry, Penguins fans, the rebuild may not be as painful as we thought. There may be some hope. What do you guys think?
So, Brett, I know you're a delusional Penguins fan, and you know
Guilty.
Yes, I still think they made some horrible signings in the past. I know Dubas is trying to rebuild and trying to get better, but how many more years does this team have to really get a championship with those big three?
That's what they're working on right now. They're trying to build the guys around them. Because, you know, as good as those guys have been, they're old and they need help. That's what this team is doing to kind of get them young guys around them to maybe make one more final push.
Do you think that they can even still like build a championship team around those three guys?
Yes, they have 30 picks in the next 3 drafts. They have time. They can do it.
All right, guys. All right, guys. That's all the grades and midterms we have for today. Thank you for tuning in to Sports Talk in the Burgh, and we will see you next time.